Hi everyone. The book I'm going to present you is called Negroland, written by Margot Jefferson. In my presentation, I'm going to start with a brief introduction of the author, Margot Jefferson. Then I will summarize the book and give my personal reaction to it. Then, to finish it off, I will present a small conclusion of the book. The references will be on the last slide. Margot Lillian Jefferson was born on October 17th of 1947. Jefferson received her Bachelor of Arts from Brandeis University, where she graduated Latin honors, and her Master of Science from the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism. She became an associate editor at Newsweek in 1973 and stayed at the magazine until 1978. She then served as an assistant professor at the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication at New York University from 1979 to 1983 and from 1989 to 1991. Since then, she has taught at the Columbia University School of the Arts, where she is now professor of professional practice in writing. Jefferson also taught at the New York School's Eugene Lang College of Liberal Arts. She joined the New York Times in 1993, initially as a book reviewer, then went on to win the Pulitzer Prize for Criticism in 1995. She also served as the newspaper theater critic in 2004. In addition to the Times, she has written for Vogue, New York Magazine, The Nation, and Guernica. Jefferson's autobiographical book, Negroland, was published to Hale in 2015. In 2016, Negroland was shortlisted for the Bale Gifford Prize for Nonfiction and won the National Book Critics Circle Award in the autobiographic category. The book Negroland describes Jefferson's experiences growing up suffering from discrimination due to her skin color in the mid to late 20th century America and having to cope with it day to day. This book is a memoir, but Jefferson's objective is to show that it's not only hers, but of many others that are in the same situation as she. And so, she makes the book a story of her giving her own experience. The title of the book, Negroland, comes from a small region of Negro America where residents are sheltered by a certain amount of privilege and plenty. One of the main objectives of the book is to show that the members of Negroland are unhappy with the white race, of course, but also with the black one. To contextualize, in the first chapters of the book, Margot talks about African American writers and activists who wanted to help the African Americans from lower classes. Jefferson uses an assertive tone addressing an envious white community. Her sad encounter with racism began very soon in her life. She lived in Chicago with her father, who was a doctor, and her mother, who was a socialite. She also lived with her sister, Denise. The girls were in a school frequented mostly by whites and attended clubs that were meant to teach them how to behave like white people, or as they called it, proper behavior. Jefferson strived against racial slurs since early in her life, and she didn't understand them. When her family explained her that she was being targeted by racism, she felt frustrated and felt that she would never understand it. Later on, in college, this changes though. The civil rights movement was growing more and more, and by that time she had learned how to deal with discrimination, but still encountered hard challenges, like when she was cast to play a maid. Jefferson loves poetry and drama, but due to the stereotypical black woman as a maid, she couldn't fulfill her desire. Margot gives several examples of the different types of racism that she suffered, like the song with the word darky, or later on in college, the role of a maid. Throughout the book, there are several parts that show exactly the discrimination that she had to endure, and the way it affected her behavior. I've decided to mention some important citations that show exactly that. I was taught to distinguish myself through presentation, not declaration, to excel through deeds and manners, not showing off. I was taught to avoid showing off. But isn't all memoir a form of showing off? What this shows is that basically black people couldn't be praised and had to be seen as their normal standards, which were negative as we know. In other words, the black community had to be inferior to the white one, above all. This book comes down to some parts of her life from her childhood to her adulthood. Throughout her life, she learned how to change her language to a more acceptable way. For example, she continued to use the word negro to refer to her childhood, but began to use black to describe herself as an adult. In my opinion, Negroland is an original and entrepreneurial book. Margot Jefferson describes examples of the beauty standards of the time and uses lists to reflect the rigid climate she lived in. She reflects on her memories and addresses readers with questions, some rhetorical, as a way to create captivating dilemmas like the one shown on the previous slide. But isn't all a memoir a form of showing off? To conclude, I have to say that I have enjoyed the book of Margot Jefferson, and it has a clear connection to the ones that we gave in class, more specifically, the one written by Leonita McLean, The Middle Class Black Burdens. In these two, the female figures experience racism in the middle class, and since both are journalists, they tell us their stories and different personal experiences. Thank you for your time.